Alright, so it looks like I had to make a third part out of chapter 5, and this is going to be the end, the final lecture. This is the big moment, right? Um, and this starts on page 185, so we got about 10 pages left. It says, I wish I could say that the rest of the journey was a blur, as if I were indeed the flame the psychologist had seen. But no, it was not over. And what happens is that she eventually is trying to leave, right? And she can't really handle the crawler anymore. And at the bottom of page 185, it says, I let go of Rock Bay, of the starfish in its pool. I thought instead about my husband's journal. I thought about my husband in the boat, somewhere to the north. I thought about how everything lay above and nothing now below. And so she hugs the wall and then crawls literally like a child out of this place. And then at the top of page 186, she says, I was almost out of sight of it being the crawler, right? Rounding the corner when some stubborn part of me insisted on risking a single glance back. One last, ill advised, defiant glance. Defiant meaning that you push back, right? Her brain is telling her, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But she's saying, I'm going to do it. That's something I might never understand. Staring back at me, amid that profusion of cells generated by the crawler, that is, all these different things around the crawler, I saw barely visible the face of a man. No, let's stop there. Is it going to be her husband, or is it going to be the lighthouse keeper? Either way, it's going to be very uncanny. Hooded in shadow and orbited by indescribable things I could think of only as his jailers, the man's expression displayed such a complex and naked, meaning open, extreme of emotion that it transfixed and really caught her attention. I saw in those features the endurance of an unending pain and sorrow. Yes, but shining through as well a kind of grim satisfaction and ecstasy. Ecstasy meaning true joy. I had never seen such an expression before, but I recognized that face. I had seen it in a photograph. A sharp eagle's eye gleamed out from a heavy face. The left eye lost to its squint. A thick beard hid all but a hint of a firm chin under. Trapped within the crawler, the last lighthouse keeper stared out at me. Oh my goodness. This is it. This is when you find out that the crawler has either inhabited or is co-inhabiting the body of the lighthouse keeper. And he stared out at me, so it seemed, not just across the vast unbridgeable gulf, but also across the years. For though thinner, his eyes receded into orbits, his jawline more pronounced. The lighthouse keeper had not aged a day. Did he know what he had become, or had he gone mad long ago? Could he even really see me? How uncanny. I do not know how long he had been looking at me, observing me, before I turned to see him. I held his gaze for such a short time, too short a time. There was nothing I could do for him, loss of power, and I had no room left in me for anything but my own survival. There might be far worse things than drowning. I could not tell what he had lost, or what he might have gained, over the past 30 years, but I envied him that journey not at all. In other words, she's saying that the journey that she's taken has been so much worse than perhaps what could ever be imagined in this short amount of time. And then she talks about with her husband one last time. It's very interesting that she talks to her husband towards the end, and she says that she's been having dreams just before he leaves, And then she says a house and a basement and the awful crimes that had occurred there. Very interesting. Not sure what that's in reference to. We all live in a kind of continuous dream, I told him. When we wake, it is because something, some event, some pinprick even, disturbs the edges of what we've taken as reality. So, this is a great quote to use because she's saying that things that appear to be a dream and you're not sure if it's a dream or not, one bit of reality, something familiar, whether it's a sound, whether it's the bark of a dog, whether it's someone saying, wake up, suddenly that sound in your ear wakes up your mind, and then you wake up, oh my gosh, it was all just a dream, right? And then he says, am I a pinprick then, disturbing the edges of your reality, Ghost Bird? I caught the desperation of his mood. Oh, is it bake the Ghost Bird time again? Sounds like they do this all the time. Here's something very interesting. Perhaps I'm a figment of your reality, he said. Perhaps I don't exist except to do your bidding. Then you're failing spectacularly, or succeeding spectacularly because you want me to fail, he said, but was smiling. Interesting. So remember what the psychologist had said, and I hadn't really thought about it until reading it this time again. What if her husband is a figment of her reality? What if they've been telling her that she was married, even though she might not have been, and that it is something that they've created for her so that she would eventually want to go into Area X? Because remember, they seem to have inspired her husband to get there. Couldn't they do the same to her? Ghostbird, where would you be if we weren't together? I had no answer for that. Not here, not there either. Maybe nowhere. Now, remember in chapter 5, she talks about being at this place that she goes at night away from her husband. Then, Ghostbird? Yes. Ghostbird, I'm afraid now. I'm afraid, and I have the self esteem to ask. A thing I have no right to ask. Will you come after me if I don't come back? If you can. You're coming back, I told him, to sit right here like a golem, with all the things I knew about you drained out. How I wish beyond reason that I had answered him, even to tell him no, and how I wish now, even though it was always impossible, that in the end I had gone to Area X for him. So now we see the true purpose as to why she goes into Area X, even if she won't admit it throughout the novel. The suggestion is the reason why she went to Area X is because of her husband, right? And that's why she's so in control of the situation. That's why she wants to continue to go on, despite the fact that she knows she's probably not going to make it back, despite the fact that she could die of cancer, despite all these sort of things that could stop someone logically from going. She's going to choose the most objective reason, love. But she's going to disguise it as a way of talking about her profession and biology. A swimming pool, a rocky bay, an empty lot, a tower, a lighthouse. These things are real and not real. How uncanny. They exist and they do not exist. I remake them in my mind with every new thought, every remembered detail, and each time they are slightly different. Sometimes they are camouflage or disguises. Sometimes they are something more truthful. Regardless, when she actually gets out, that's when she finally comes to the reality and she says the lighthouse keeper colonizing my thoughts. So think about this. Throughout this novel, she said that other things have been colonizing them, right? Nature has been colonizing them. Now it's the lighthouse keeper. Is the lighthouse keeper an embodiment of that nature? Is he the embodiment of that moaning at dusk? Is he everything that is Area X? How scary and uncanny. Alright. And so then she talks about what she realizes about the lighthouse keeper, in that there's the assimilator, which is Area X, and the crawler, and the assimilated, which is the lighthouse keeper, and how the script of words powers the engine of transformation. Um, Perhaps it is merely a machine, and that it doesn't have the sort of same functions as we do with choice, right? But she says if it does have a choice, its choice is completely alien to us, meaning we cannot understand it. And on page 192, 191 to 192, I'm going to do the previous sentence here. Imagine that this communication sometimes lends a sense of the uncanny to the landscape because of the narcissism of our human gaze, but that it is just part of the natural world here. I may never know what triggered the creation of doppelgangers, but it may not matter because it changes all the time and it may be completely different. And then she says there's nothing much left to tell you. Then she talks about the fact that if she's honest, on page 194, towards the bottom, and if I'm honest, I can't shake the sense that he is still here, her husband, somewhere, even if utterly transformed, in the eye of a dolphin, in the touch of an uprising of moss, anywhere and everywhere. In other words, that her husband is in many different places, right? Part of his DNA is everywhere, therefore she will always find him. Perhaps I'll even find a boat abandoned on a deserted beach if I'm lucky. But the reality is that we're never too sure, and that's the end of the novel. So it ends on a kind of interesting note, and it's so exciting because then we need to think about, well, what are the second and third novels about? I've given you some idea. Now I'm going to talk to you about the final exam. Thank you.